So Tucker Carlson was caught by Media Matters saying insane things in the mid-2000s. He was on the Bubba the Love Sponge show, which I sound ridiculous even saying those words. I actually have never heard of this show. Maybe I don't know, does that make me old or does that make me too young for it? I don't know. I haven't really heard of this. Is it like a Howard Stern knockoff or something like that? Well, whatever. Tucker used to call into this show all the time, and here's just a snippet. This is some of what he said, which has caused controversy. Apparently, Media Matters went through like hours and hours and hours of this stuff, and they got just countless clips lined up of Tucker saying things that are cringeworthy. But I'm going to give you some of the worst of what he said. Listen.
Well, actually, he's not in prison for that. Warren Jeffs didn't marry underage girls.
No, he's in prison for facilitation of child rape.
Whatever the hell that means.
That means
he's in prison. He's in prison because he's weird and unpopular, and he has a different lifestyle that other people find creepy.
No, he's an accessory to the rape of children. That is a felony, and a serious one at that.
What do you mean an accessory? He's like got some weird religious cult where he thinks it's okay to, marry underage girls. But he didn't do it. Why wouldn't the guy who actually did it, who had sex with an underage girl, he should be the one who's doing life? The rapist in this case has made a lifelong commitment to live and take care of the person. So it is a little different. I mean, let's just be honest about it. He's not accused of touching anybody. He is accused of facilitating a marriage between a 16-year-old girl and a 27-year-old man. That's the accusation. That's what they're calling felony rape.
But in our state,
that's bullshit. I'm sorry. Now, this guy may be a total creep, maybe a child rapist. I'm just telling you that arranging a marriage between a 16-year-old and a 27-year-old is not the same as pulling a stranger off the street and raping her. That's bullshit.
But you know what? In my brief experience, what gets women going is arguing with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Brad, I never use that.
It's true. You debate politics with a woman and just go, just full-blown out there, especially feminism. If you're talking to a feminist and she's giving you, men really need to be more sensitive and this, actually men don't need to be more sensitive. You just need to be quiet and kind of do what you're told.
Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys.
But I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
And the way they treat women, I agree with you. Their culture is, but you're in their homeland, and you're over there as an American who they hate, and they want nothing more than the Americans off of their soil. So they're not going to play games.
They can just shut the fuck up and obey, is my view.
Damn. All right, so let's go through this. First of all, the toilet paper point is hilariously wrong because it's actually almost like an open joke around the world how like horrendous the sanitary habits of Americans are, because Americans usually just use toilet paper. Places around the world they wash. Like there's a lot of bidets in Europe, for example, but elsewhere too. There's like a lot of countries, most countries, almost everywhere except the U.S., they literally like wash their ass after they take a shit, where you use water and you clean it. And somebody made a good point. I saw it on Twitter. They're like, if you're changing a baby's diaper and you get shit on your arm, will you just wipe it off? Will you just take a piece of a tissue or something and just wipe it off? No, you're probably going to actually wash. You're going to put it under water. You're going to use some soap. You're going to wash it because there's shit on your skin. But for whatever reason, Americans, generally, when they go to the bathroom and they use toilet paper, they think like, oh, that's clean. When other countries are like, no, I'm going to wash that area. Now in the U.S., I don't know, almost any places in the U.S. that actually have bidets to wash properly. So, a little life hack for everybody out there. Buy some flushable wipes, because then you're actually cleaning the area and you're not just using toilet paper. So it's hilarious because it's very myopic and really dumb and ignorant for him to act like, bro, we're better than other places because we're really sanitary. We use toilet paper. When like everywhere else in the world is looking at us like, you fucking idiot. You guys have like the worst, ass wiping routines of almost everybody in the world. And here you are acting like we're so superior. That's very Tucker. That's very like Fox News bubble-ish, because it's just Like, you got it exactly wrong, but yet you're so smug with your claim. Okay, that was a random side point, but I thought that was really indicative of, like, everything he was saying here about how wrong he is. Because, and I'm not trying to play, like, the, oh my god, I'm offended card. I'm actually trying to break down as to why everything he said was horrendously stupid. Like, the whole thing about, oh, you could just shut the fuck up and obey, as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to the war, and the whole thing about, like, they're primitive monkeys. Like, stop and think about this, man. The United States of America, we waged an illegal, offensive war on a country that did not attack us. As a direct result of that, minimum 200,000 innocent civilians were killed. And he is saying, these victims of our atrocities, they're primitive monkeys. They're primitive monkeys? We literally just waged an offensive war against a country that didn't attack us and killed minimum 200,000 innocent civilians. That sounds pretty primitive to me. That sounds really primitive to me. That's just fucking invade places and start killing shit. You know? And pretend like it was linked to 9/11 and then pretend it was linked to weapons of mass destruction, even though he didn't have weapons of mass destruction. And even if he did, he wasn't going to use them. Like, we were wrong on so many levels. We were wrong on a moral level. We were wrong on an empirical level. We were wrong. No matter how you slice it or dice it, we were dead wrong. And his takeaway is, shut the fuck up and obey. And his takeaway is, you're primitive monkeys. It's that classic, like, smug imperialist attitude, you know, of like, know your place, fucking primitive monkeys over here. Fucking savages. It's like when, you know, the white settlers back in the Wild West during westward expansion and the Trail of Tears and stuff, slaughtering every Native American in sight. And they're like, they're the savages. You're slaughtering them as you move westward. Like, what? What? So it's just, it's amazing ability to avoid introspection. And that's very, let's be serious here, that's one of the things that's very common in a far-right conservative mind. The inability to take your harsh eye and your criticisms of other people and turn that scope inward. And see, okay, well, let's see here. Let me harshly evaluate myself here. So, I don't know. And this was, by the way, now he's like Mr. I'm against intervention and stuff like that. He was for the Iraq War when it happened. Now, I originally thought that it was only like a year in that he flipped, or at least that's what he said. But now it looks like this is like 2006, where some of the clips, some of them were 2009, and he was still very, you know, like, rah, rah, America, shut up and obey, you're primitive monkeys, and all that stuff. So I don't know how long he actually supported it, but he clearly supported the war for quite a while. So, and then there's the, you know, the comments about women, and so it's just a lot of really stupid, bigoted stuff, some dehumanizing stuff, and it's just really stupid. Now, the Warren Jeffs thing, I had to go back and refresh my memory on Warren Jeffs. I vaguely remembered it, but I went to the Wikipedia page. Here's the first thing it says. Jeffs was extradited to Texas, where he was found guilty of sexual assault and aggravated sexual assault of 12 and 15-year-old girls, for which he was sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years and fined $10,000. So it's not like he's trying to say, well, no, that guy actually didn't do anything. He just facilitated child marriages. That would be bad enough. But put that aside. That's actually not true that that's all that he did. He personally was found guilty of sexual assault and aggravated sexual assault of 12 to 15-year-old girls. I mean, that's not what he's accusing him of. Now, to be fair to Tucker, I don't know if at the time maybe those charges weren't out yet or those charges weren't public record. And at the time, maybe he had facilitated the child marriages but didn't personally do any sexual assault. But either way, it's just like a weird apology for this guy who's actually pretty well established to be a fucking monster. And it's so funny that you have people on the far right who cook up all these conspiracies about, you know, like there was the Pizzagate out of a basement of a pizza parlor, Hillary Clinton is running prostitutes, child prostitutes or something. And then when we're slapped in the face with real examples of like Jeffrey Epstein, for example, fucking mum's the word from the same people who see a conspiracy in everything. Now when you have a real conspiracy on the record, proven in court, Jeffrey Epstein, everybody's like, and why are they quiet? Well, for one reason, Donald Trump was buddies with this guy, but so was Bill Clinton. So it's weird how like the real conspiracies are ignored, and then now you have an issue where one of the favorite right-wing hosts is basically apologizing for this fucking child sexual assaulter who set up child marriages, and people are like, no, let's defend him. What? What do you mean defend him? Look at what he said. Now, I want to be clear about something. I don't agree with, on principle, I don't agree with the tactic of outrage mobs and deplatforming. And you guys know that. I'm upfront about that. I say it when it's right-wing people. I say it when it's left-wing people. I simply don't like the idea of let's try to get somebody kicked off of their show and let's use force and pressure to try to deplatform people. So I'm not doing this segment to try to, hop on that bandwagon and be like, yeah, let's get them off air. I'm just doing the segment to explain to you how the things he said are actually outrageous and offensive and wrong. And forget offensive, because again, I don't care. Something could be offensive and true. This is not offensive and true. This is just fucking wrong and stupid at that. But now, and here's really why I'm covering this story. Tucker came out the night after and went full-on double-down defense mode. Whoa, what? It's one thing if Tucker had just come out and said, hey, listen, these things I said were jokes. These things I said over here, I was serious, but I was wrong for reasons X, Y, and Z, and here's why I know now I'm wrong. But overall, hey, fuck off. I don't cave to outrage mob pressure. If he had done that segment, I don't even know if we'd be covering this right now. Because I probably would have looked at that segment and been like, okay, fair enough. Even though you said horrible things, even though they're outrageous, even though they're wrong, at least you owned up to some of it and you explained other parts of it. But he didn't do that. He went out there. You're going to see him here with Dave Rubin, Rave Dubin as I call him. And this is the segment that he does after these clips are released.
Dave Rubin hosts the Rubin Report. We don't agree on everything politically, but he is a sincere believer in free speech. We wanted to talk to him tonight. Dave, thanks very much for coming on. I'm starting to think that a lot of us overestimated the willingness of the Democratic establishment to coexist with people who disagree with them, and underestimated the real threat, the actual existential threat to speech that we face now. Do you think that's right?
Well, I wish I could say that this whole situation is shocking, but this is exactly what I've been raising the alarm about on my show for the last 5 or so years. As you know, I come from the left. I was a progressive. I still consider myself a liberal in the best sense of liberalism, classical liberalism, and I believe in the individual and all of that stuff that we've talked about several times. But I want to address a couple things here. First, on the way that you've responded to the attacks by not apologizing. I think that was exactly the right thing to do. All of us have joked. All of us have made mistakes. All of us have a past. Yeah. All of us have done things that we're not proud of, and a series of other things. If you've lived, you've done those things, including, by the way, the very same Media Matters people who are going after you and all the media elite who are reveling.
Well, let me just stop you there. I agree. And if I have wounded someone or wronged someone, I will always apologize to that person and ask for forgiveness. I do it every day. I'm not going to apologize to Media Matters or any other Soros-backed pressure group. I haven't wronged them. They've wronged me. I owe them nothing, including an apology, and I will never bow to them, period. Excuse me.
I couldn't agree more.
Control myself.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm for apology, but not to them.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and by the way, that's exactly the message that I think your audience and the average American needs to hear right now. We have watched years now of the mob coming for everybody, and as you just laid out, a lot of this stuff is coordinated between nonprofits and media organizations and the rest of it, and it is time that we stop giving into it. And not only do we have to stop giving into it so that a guy like you isn't taken out and that a network like Fox isn't taken out, or any network. Right. We are still free here in this country for a little while longer, I think, and I will continue to fight for. But it's not just that. It's because what they're really trying to do is they are trying to make the average citizen, the average person who is an American, fear that whatever they said 20 years ago that someone can dig up on Facebook or wherever it is, or some old audio recording, that they'll go after them. You were joking around with Bubba the Love Sponge. Now, I'm pretty sure that as a shock jock, you know who I'd love to get involved in this fight? If Howard Stern happens to watch your show by any chance. You know, for 30 years, he was the #1 shock jock in the country. And imagine the politicians, actors, comedians, authors, that walked through that studio and said completely bananas, crazy things, sometimes joking, sometimes partly true. It doesn't even matter. The point is that if we are going to come for everyone's past, guess what? That means everyone. And the same people who are coming for you, they better watch out. And that idea of mutually assured destruction, it's not it's not part of the America that I want to be part of. I want to be part of something that has a little bit of forgiveness, that understands we're all imperfect creatures, and that is a little more respectful of our ability to agree to disagree, because that's what this country was founded on.
Exactly. In the last 24 hours, I've received, I don't know, dozens of transcripts of prominent progressives saying awful things on this show or that show, or texts from them. You know, we could do a whole show on this. They said it too. I'm not doing that, because I think you ought to be able to say what you think. I think you ought to be able to make jokes, make mistakes, and I'm not going to play their game, period. And I don't care if I benefit from it. I'm never doing that. And very quickly, tell us, you've thought about this so much, and I hope you'll come back on to further explain it, but what can the average person who is essentially powerless in the face of this do to protect his right to his God-given rights?
Start speaking up now. You know, this comes up every college I speak at, every public event I speak at. This is what young people are asking about. I'm afraid to speak up. I want to get the grade. I want to get out of school, or I don't want to get fired from my job. That freezing ability that is silencing good, decent people who usually lean a little bit right. They're usually libertarians or conservatives, something like that. Imagine if everyone started speaking up. And I don't believe that most people are racist. I don't believe that most people are bigots or want to do harm. I think good people are now afraid to speak. And the only way we're going to break this thing, and that's why they're coming after you, because you've been the most vocal in the mainstream fighting this. And if more of us start doing it, they can't take us all down. And if we don't, then we'll get what we deserve, which is something far, far worse than this country that they seem to have so many problems with.
I hope your words wind up on people's refrigerators, because you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Dave Rubin, thank you. It was great to see you.
Well, I'll keep defending you, man, really. I think more people need to do it, and you have a lot of support out there. And I can tell you this, you have support in quarters of the left that you don't even know you do, and they're just afraid to speak out, and I'll keep working on those guys too.
That's such a fucking disingenuous response. Every part of that was just dripping with disingenuity? I don't know how to say that. Every part of that was disingenuous, okay? And here's what I mean. He totally sidestepped any substantive criticism of what he said and just went, free speech! Free speech! Oh my God, free speech! Free speech is under attack. Now hold on here. So again, I just want to use myself as an example here because it's the perfect example. I'm not partaking in a boycott. I'm not joining the outrage mob and saying you should be taken off the air. I'm not trying to censor. I'm not trying to deplatform. Now, having said all that, do I have criticisms of what you said? You bet your fucking ass I do. What you said is insanely stupid. An imperial power does an offensive war against a country that didn't attack us, kills minimum 200,000 people, and your response is, shut up and obey. Your response is, wow, you guys are some primitive monkeys as we fucking massacre women and children in your homeland. So, why? It's so disingenuous to just not address any of the substantive criticisms, and there are many. Warren Jeffs is a fucking monster who not only facilitated marriages to underage girls, but also did sexual assault himself. So when people say, hey man, you defending him is kind of fucking crazy. Hey man, you doing an apology and lashing out at the victims of an imperial war, when people call you out on that and your response is, free speech is under attack. No, that's you dodging like Neo from the Matrix and not actually addressing any of the substantive points. Now again, if he said, hey, I was joking for this, this, and this. Now, this one I was not joking, and here's why I was wrong about that, but also here's why I'm half right about this one. Well, then, hey, at least you're being honest and you're being upfront about everything, and then you could still, at the end of that, try to stand on principle and say, I just don't agree with outrage mobs and I don't agree with deplatforming, so go ahead. You could dig up all the old stuff I said, but it's not going to make a difference. You're not going to get me off the air. That would have been a fine segment. But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He went full on, I'm going to lie, I'm going to misstate shit, I'm going to be disingenuous, I'm going to act like the only question here is the left's opposition to free speech. Fuck are you talking about? There's plenty of substantive criticism of the garbage that you said, and apparently said for quite a long time. I mean, you were saying a lot of this shit they have tapes going all the way up to 2009. I guess the earliest one was 06, the latest one was 09 there. But he's just refusing to address in an honest way what happened. Now, here's how you know, and here's really in my mind the straw that broke the camel's back. Because I've made this point before on air, that a lot of these characters on the right, they don't really care about free speech. And you want to know how I know that? Anytime there's a free speech issue that props up that goes against their ideology, mum's the word. You won't hear a goddamn peep out of them. They only trot out the free speech talking point when they get caught saying shit that's either insanely bigoted or factually wrong. That's the only time that they're like, free speech is under attack. Free speech. Why can't I call Iraqis primitive monkeys? Free speech is under attack. It's so under attack. And it's the oldest trick in the book. Trump did this, Ann Coulter's done this before, where they'll reference like, the left is just being politically incorrect. When in reality, the left got mad at them for saying something that's factually incorrect. And when the left fact checks them, they're like, I'm just politically incorrect. No, you're not politically incorrect. You're incorrect. You're just wrong with what you're saying. So it's such a dodge, and it's so fucking slimy, and it makes a lot of people just shut their minds off and go, like, oh yeah, no, true, the left is all they want to do is censor and deplatform people, and they're just against free speech. Well, I'm sure, yeah, Tucker and Dave Rubin are they're really free speech crusaders, which is why both of them flipped out when the story broke last week that Donald Trump and the Trump administration are literally tracking journalists at the border in an Orwellian fashion and making it hard for them to travel from point A to point B because they don't like the reporting that they're doing on what's happening at the border. We literally have the government tracking journalists who are doing wrongthink, literally against the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and freedom of the press. But we know Tucker and Rave Dubin care deeply about this issue because at least they flipped out on their respective shows when this story broke last week, right? They didn't say Dickie McGeezack's on that. At least both of them were like, whoa, to Donald Trump when Donald Trump, about a year ago, went on a tweet storm where he said, we really should ban flag burning, shouldn't we? An issue that is so immensely settled that even the Supreme Court and Antonin Scalia, who's a far-right justice, even he was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Obviously, it's free speech to want to burn a flag, even the American flag. Even though I love America, that is 100% protected speech because it's saying I disagree with action X that America is doing. And so in protest, I will burn the flag. This isn't a question. This is obviously a violation of freedom of speech, violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. And, we have to allow this. And Donald Trump, their fucking I love free speech president, goes on a tweet storm against saying we should ban flag burning, and neither one of these assholes made a peep, so obviously they care deeply about this issue, right? How about when Trump recently, and he's done this repeatedly, said, we should de-license the fake news. So, in other words, let me break that down for you. If Donald Trump sees stories that he doesn't like from various news outlets, he wants to de-license them and take away their ability to do their job because he doesn't like what they're reporting about him, which is the most authoritarian impulse I've ever seen and deeply against the First Amendment. Or how about, Rave Dubin will love this one, the fucking 26 states in the United States that passed anti-BDS laws. You know what that means? If you say, hey, I'm going to boycott Israel because I don't like that they're doing permanent occupation, I don't like the illegal settlements, if you do that, 26 states say, you can never get a government contract. So against the First Amendment that in 2 states, courts actually ruled that officially. I think it was Kansas and Arizona. And now there's another lawsuit going on in Arkansas on this same issue. But in 26 states, you're not allowed to say, I believe in protesting Israel because of what they're doing to Palestinians. If you say that, the government will specifically target you for your speech and say, sorry, under no circumstance can you get any contract from the government. Literally against the First Amendment, an actual legal threat to the First Amendment, as opposed to just the principle of the First Amendment, a legal threat to the First Amendment, and fucking Rave Dubin, who pretends to care about free speech, hasn't said dick, and Tucker Carlson hasn't said dick. So these guys, they just use this issue as a mask, as a shield. And then, of course, the Colin Kaepernick issue, where they all screaming, oh my God, the president, the fucking head of our government, is pressuring the NFL to crack down on this guy for a peaceful, nonviolent protest where he fucking kneels. Were they going in on that? Or how about Ilhan Omar? When kick her off the fucking Foreign Policy Committee because she dared to say that AIPAC wants to control politicians, which they fucking do. And of course, what did Rave Dubin do for the past 2 weeks? He kept going, anti-Semite, anti-Semite, she's an anti-Semite. The same people who say, oh my God, the left are so quick to call people bigots. Why can't we have an open free exchange of ideas? That same guy who makes that argument immediately, anti-Semite over here, anti-Semite over there. Did you say anything against Israel? You're an anti-Semite. Ben Shapiro, same shit. Ben Shapiro loves to, oh my God, why does the left always accuse people on the right of being bigots? They jump to that immediately. And what did he do? Literally, he did a tweet where he was like, Ilhan Omar's an anti-Semite, Rashida Tlaib's an anti-Semite. She went through a list. Like, they don't see the irony, they don't see the contradiction, they don't see that they're actually the ones doing the false cries of bigotry here, especially because in the case of Ilhan Omar, all she was doing is saying, hey, money controls politics, and it's not like Israel is somehow immune from that. It's like, oh, they're special, and money does not control, and it's the Israel lobby. When it's the Saudi lobby, of course it does control. I'm wrapping it up here, I promise, guys, but bottom line is this. They didn't speak out over any of the things I already mentioned. They didn't speak out in defense of Chelsea Manning, who just went back into prison because she's taking a stand for the First Amendment. Neither one of these assholes said a goddamn fucking thing about this, and this is the most important free speech issue in the country. And neither one of them said anything about it. The only time they ever say anything about free speech is to cover their own ass when they say something that's factually wrong. That's the only time they ever bring it up. They didn't say anything about Chelsea Manning. You think she could use the support now? I think so. She could use everybody on the left and the right standing up and saying, hey man, this is crazy. What she's doing is saying, I'm not going to throw Julian Assange under the bus, who's a journalist who was doing his job. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. So if you're going to lock me up because I won't testify, fine, lock me up. I don't care. A brave, principled stand for free speech and fucking mum's the word from the so-called free speech crew. But call Iraqis primitive monkeys and all of a sudden, oh, free speech! Free speech for me to say factually wrong things that are absolutely insane. Free speech. Did they say anything in support of Julian Assange? No. Did they say anything when New Jersey prisons tried to ban the new Jim Crow? The book, The New Jim Crow? No. Did they say anything when Rania Khalek or any of the plethora of lefties were banned from social media? No. They say nothing unless it fits their fucking ideology. And that's the problem. They're jokes. They're jokes. They're frauds. Okay? Now, I'm going to say, final point here. I already told you guys, I'm not part of the left that believes in censorship, that believes in deplatforming, that believes in outrage mobs. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. I think it's wrong on principle. So I'm not joining in on this fucking, punch-drunk group of people who are screaming that he's got to get off air. I don't care about that. What I'm doing here is I'm explaining to you how he's factually wrong with what he said. He's immoral in what he said. He's stupid in what he said. And his response has been deeply, deeply, deeply disingenuous at every turn.